What's going on, guys? My name is Tommy. Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another episode of the Forgotten Race Review. Today's video is 3 parts request, 1 part backtracking on my bit. To explain what I mean by that, Nicholas Cirillo pointed out that in most of my videos I'm kind of just boringly reciting info out, and that I should spice things up by talking a little bit about my gaming experience with a given race, and I think, Mr. Cirillo, you are absolutely correct, especially when you consider in all of my videos, I'm asking for monetary support to become a better channel. I can do so much better, and moving forward, every single solitary last episode of my lore videos will have sections where we talk about how I have used a given race or region or deity or whatever it is I might happen to be covering, and how you, as the GM, can make some not cookie-cutter NPCs out of these guys. Mr. Michael Baker thinks that straight-up Aasimars have always struck him as too vanilla, and frankly, I agree with you wholeheartedly, my friend. He'd like to hear about one of the variants. And finally, Samuel Thurman loves the Emberkin Aasimar, especially as a character thought of as the avatar of Sarenrae. So we're going to roll all 3 of these comments together. Today, we'll be talking about the Emberkin, or the Perry-blooded Aasimar. As always, this channel is directly supported by patronage, and patronage is the #1 way to see us become bigger, more powerful, super awesome in the YouTube world. If you'd be interested in helping us out, the Patreon link is, as always, in the description. Today, this episode of the Forgotten Race Review is brought to you in part by the Inn of Planar Crossroads. Guys, as always, thank you so much for your support. Thank you so much for letting me piggyback into your channel. I actually just got done watching Adam and his son have a one-on-one Pathfinder game. The first episode is up on their YouTube channel, and it's definitely not what you would expect from a group of adults gaming. It's super fun to watch. Go check it out. Now, with no further ado, let us begin. So, in Persian mythology, the Peri are exquisite, winged, fairy-like spirits ranking somewhere between angels and evil spirits, kind of like how I guess in Pathfinder we would describe the Fae. In earlier sources, they are described as agents of evil who have been denied paradise until they have done penance. These guys were so prolific in mythology that with the spread of Islam through Persia, the Peri was integrated into Islamic folklore. They're often regarded as a kind of good jinn, while the evil ones are often identified by Persians with the div. The belief in the Peri still persists among Muslims in India as a type of spiritual creature, besides things like the jinni and ghosts of the wicked. In Pathfinder, some of us might know the Peri as the CR14 native outsider that we see in Bestiary 3. They're a race of celestials native to the good-aligned outer planes, but they're also often found in the company of mortals on the material plane. They're believed to be the descendants of fallen angels, and they do penance for their ancestors' sins before they can earn a place in paradise. As a result, Peris work tirelessly to aid and support good heroes of the mortal realms in a never-ending battle against evil, and in particular, Peris hate the evil fiends that we know as the Div, who constantly seek to ruin the good works of mortals. Peris often work to repair damage wrought by the Divs, and for their part, the Divs take great pleasure in tormenting and persecuting the Peri, and as you can probably guess, the cycle just kind of loops on forever and ever and ever. Now, the Emberkin, the children of the Peri, reveal their divine heritage through their skill with fire-based magic and their desire to repent for others' sins. Many Emberkin suffer from frequent nightmares and strange impulses to commit spontaneous acts of evil. They typically have igneous features, think wispy auburn hair and bright yellow eyes, and a very rare few are born with albino skin. Emberkin often feel an insatiable need to continually perform acts of good. Some are content to perform small acts of kindness at home, though they might feel driven to travel regularly in order to find pockets of true evil that they can eradicate. Thus, they can often be found in regions such as Cheliax, Galt, and the Shackles, where they combat injustices in all of their forms. We've talked about all 3 of those regions in the Inner Sea region, a 5-minute tour, our series that goes live on Fridays. If you'd like to check that series out, follow this card right here to be directed to some sweet Inner Sea lore. Like all Aasimars, Emberkin are not necessarily compelled to embrace good and justice. Perhaps more so than their celestial kin, Emberkin have a propensity to revolt against their benevolent predisposition and instead follow a darker path. Perhaps these Emberkin are evil by nature, or perhaps it's a remnant of the fallen angel from which their ancestry springs. Either way, such wicked individuals are often dangerous and are both pitied and hunted down by the rest of the Aasimars, and probably also the rest of good aligned celestials in the world. Now let's get down to the character sheet, shall we? We retain some of the same things a vanilla Aasimar does, but the variant Aasimar heritages change up certain key factors to make the heritage a race in its own right. For example, a Peri-blooded Aasimar receives a +2 to its intelligence and charisma rather than wisdom and charisma, instead of the +2 racial bonus to diplomacy and perception checks, +2 to knowledge, planes, and spellcraft. Instead of being able to cast Light as a spell-like ability, the Emberkin can cast Pyrotechnics. Other than that, it's the same idea as the Aasimar that we talked about 2 weeks ago. They have Acid Resistance 5, Cold Resistance 5, and Electricity Resistance 5, which feels really weird and bad. We should probably take off the Cold Resistance and add Fire Resistance, but that's just my humble opinion. We still have Dark Vision out to 60 feet. We are still medium native outsiders with a base speed of 30 feet. Now, I've never used a Peri-blooded Aasimar in any of my games. I truthfully didn't even know the Peri came from Persian mythology until I started doing research on this video. I'm glad I did, because in our Pathfinder stream, Lordly Caliber, the party will be fighting Div, probably for the foreseeable future, and as such, bringing in some Peri definitely works very well for that game, so I'm glad I chose this race for this video. As far as Aasimars in general go, I have played an Archon-blooded Aasimar in a one-shot. You will see it over on the Inn of Planar Crossroads just as soon as Kane is able to get it done, and it felt kind of vanilla, I'm not gonna lie. Maybe it's the angsty teen within me, and I'm almost 27, so I probably need to work on that. But playing Aasimars just isn't really up my alley. Of course, they're very good mechanically, but they're also very good flavor-wise, and that kind of role-playing has never really sat with me. On several occasions, I've been in a party with an Aasimar, and an Aasimar is probably the most common non-core race that I've ever adventured with, but by that notion, it's kind of just like, okay, you're an Aasimar, got it. And from there, I will not say the role-playing seems flat, but I will say that the role-playing seems to be exactly what I expected to see from that given character and that given character's race. Somebody who is out in the world trying to do good in one case, someone trying to find their solar angel father, who was eventually leadership in, and that game was a whole lot of fun. But I think if I were to play an Aasimar in a very long-term campaign and not just use one for an NPC or for a one-shot, I would definitely do, like the Peri says in its lore block, and I would go as far away from the typical alignment of my outsider heritage as possible. For the same reason that I think it's more fun to see a tiefling roleplay his way through the ranks of a paladin, an Aasimar who is evil, or even just like a true neutral Aasimar who has rejected his or her heritage and is trying to find a place in the world, not unlike any of the other half-somethings that we see in Pathfinder, just comes off to me as a little more fun and a little more original. That said, if your party's playing Wrath of the Righteous, or you're just crusading up to the World Wound, and if you'd like to see more about the World Wound, we talked about that one as well in the Inner Sea region, a 5-minute tour. Follow this card right here. By all means, yeah, be the daughter of a solar angel, be the son of a star archon, and be super awesome. From a min-maxing standpoint, I should note that the Perikin have a trait known as Pyromancer, which grants them a +1 trait bonus on damage rolls for any spell they cast with the fire descriptor. This stacks really nicely with the sorcerer that can cross-blood the orc bloodline and the draconic bloodline, choosing a dragon that uses fire for its breath weapon. The draconic bloodline reads whenever you cast a spell with an energy descriptor that matches your draconic bloodline's energy type. That spell deals +1 point of damage per die rolled. The orc bloodline, in addition to giving you one of the most powerful traits in the game, Dark Vision, albeit alongside light sensitivity, reads whenever you cast a spell that deals damage, the spell deals +1 point of damage per die rolled. So if we were to play an Emberkin sorcerer who cross-blooded the orc and draconic bloodline, and we threw a 10d6 fireball at somebody, we'd be doing 10d6 points of damage plus 21. Yeah, sure, why not? There's no reason to not do this. If you like fire, you like the Emberkin. Like Sam Thurman points out, these guys do make wonderful avatars of Sarenrae. So playing an Emberkin to the hilt might mean you live in the desert and you wander around vanquishing any evil that doesn't redeem itself, while also providing mercy and redemption to those who seek it. There was one point in time in my stream where we had a teeny tiny fire elemental trapped in a candle holding a gate open, And if she was still relevant to the story, if the player associated with her hadn't had to take off, it stands to reason she might have been an Emberkin trapped in the form of an elemental, and if she ever comes back, that may very well be what happens. Hashtag bring back Kazuha. But whether or not that happens, that's definitely a pretty easy niche for the Perry-blooded Emberkin to fill. Now granted, no one wants anything super stereotypical, so instead what we might do is we might make our Perry-blooded NPC chaotic evil or chaotic neutral and just run around setting everything on fire because fire is what they know, fire is what they do, they are living fire. By that logic, and it actually plays up to the stats pretty well since they don't resist fire but they resist everything else, a Perry-blooded NPC might just as easily latch on to something like Cryomancy, become somewhere between Elsa from Frozen and Sub-Zero, which totally makes sense because we don't resist fire on the Emberkin, we resist everything else. And if this NPC is going to turn into an encounter, especially at lower levels, and think, okay, we don't need to bring our fire spells, we need to bring everything else, which the Perry-blooded resists 5 points of at low levels, that may be all of the damage, which makes them even stronger in a given encounter, or at the very least, cause your players to scratch their heads in frustration as they realize that you are not a stereotypical GM. But that's all I have to say about these guys. If you have anything else to add, as always, throw it in the comments below, and we'll keep the conversation going. I hope this video provides more information for you guys, both from the aspect of we like to cover races that don't often see the light of day so they can be played more, but not just boring textbook reading because, hey, who doesn't like a good story, right? Be sure to like and subscribe for more videos. The next episode of the Forgotten Race Review, where we talk about the Oread, drops next Monday.